So you create your own reality. Do you like the idea of that? We do. You are the point of attraction of your own reality. So in order to make you understand this more easily, we've been talking to you about this expanded part of you, and we're referring to that launching of desires and the law of attraction culmination of all of the desires that you've been launching as your vortex, your creative vortex, your vortex of creation. We've been demonstrating this vortex. We've been saying to you, wrote a whole book about it. In fact, just get in the vortex, get in the vortex. Do your best to get up to speed with the vibrational part of you. And recently, we've been explaining to you that while that vibrational part of you exists, that you could be, and in fact often are, standing with vibrational variance to that vortex, to the things you want, to who you've really become, to all that you are. And that vibrational variance is what negative emotion feels like every time. So in helping you to close the gap in that vibrational variance, we want to now make you aware of where you stand. So you see what's going on. This is the way we're telling you this story of who you are. You were non-physical before you came into this body. And now that you're in this body, you are in this body and non-physical. So there is the potential for a vibrational variance. From in this body, you expand, and that non-physical part of you takes the expansion. So now there is the potential of more variance between who you have become and who you are allowing yourself to be. And now we want to show you how to close that gap again. Are you sort of getting this cycle of life that we're talking about? So once you accept that you are a vibrational being and that you have expanded and that you want to close the gap, now we want to talk about where you stand. And so we've been reaching for words to help you sort of kind of understand this point of attraction. We say things to you that are annoying in the beginning, like all of your power is in your present and only now is what matters. But we want you to understand that right here, right now, you've got a relationship with who you really are and with all that you've become, and every emotion that you feel is about that relationship. So if you're feeling fantastic, you're right up to speed in this moment. In other words, the thoughts you're thinking right now don't contradict who you really are and what you really know. So there is a merging, a blending, an aligning. There is a resonating. There is a you allowing yourself to be you. But if you're feeling negative emotion, then not so much. So we want to call your attention now to this point of attraction, because this really is where all of your power is. You have the power right here and right now, and nobody else has that power for you. And you don't exercise it very well, but you're going to get better and better at it. You have the power right here and now to affect a vibration, to launch a vibration, to offer a vibration, to enact a vibration, to get a vibration going, to offer a vibration, to emit a vibration, to send a vibration, to send out a signal. You have the ability to do it right here, right now. So we're calling this your vibrational grid. It's like this is your vibration. You know how the frame of a house looks before the walls go up or even the roof goes on? It's a framework that will fill in with all of the textures and fabrics and details of your life. But it's a vibrational grid. That's where you stand. Right here. Right here. You stand here. Now we want to talk to you about what vibration or what emotion you are holding or maintaining or emitting while you're standing here in your powerful now. Are you elated? So the grid spins, and we want you to think of the grid as an emotional grid. The grid spins. So pure positive energy, elation, exhilaration, love, appreciation, high flying, good feeling. Ooh, high flying. Or there is depression, not so high flying. Or there is overwhelmment, not so low but not so high flying. In other words, all of the emotions that you know, they equal these sort of spinning grids, these points of attraction. And you've got different grids on different subjects. And you've sort of got a medium grid. You've sort of got the grid where you usually hang out. So We're going to drive you a little crazy because we're going to call it your grid. We're going to call it your high-flying disc. We're going to call it your spinning grid. We're using every word that we can find because we want you to begin to understand your point of attraction and what you're doing with it. And even more important, we want you to understand the vibrational grid that you're choosing and its relationship to this high-flying vortex that is you. In other words, you can't set your radio dial on 98 FM and hear what's being broadcast on 93 FM. The frequencies have to match up. So we want you to understand that your vortex, the vibrational version of you, all that you've become, it's that you that was you before you came into this body that's been expanding as a result of everything that you've been living in this body. This high-flying vortex that is you has a very high frequency that you got to find if what's in your vortex is going to flow into your reality so that you then can see it, hear it, smell it, taste and touch it. In other words, you've got to get on the wavelength of it or you're not going to realize it. You're not going to have the actualization, the realization, the manifestation, the demonstration. All of those things, all of those words mean the same thing. You're not going to know it in that truest, physical, visceral, this is the way I'm living, this is who I be sense, unless you are a consistent vibrational match to it. Does that make sense to you? So, we like that you heard that. We like that you get that. We like that you know that. We like that you're planning on practicing that. You are planning on practicing that, aren't you? We like that you're planning on practicing that because once you get hold of that, Esther's grandchildren gave her a pen, a writing pen, and it's her favorite because it looks like a magic wand. It's about this long and has a pretty little bobble on the end of it. And she writes and just waves it around in the air, because it just feels like she ought to be able to just point at anything and it ought to line right up with her. You begin to get this invincible feeling when you understand that you are your point of attraction and that you can control your point of attraction. Then you begin to understand that you can carve out a path of least resistance to anything that you want. Better said, you can carve out a path of least resistance to anything wanted or unwanted. And do you know how you carve out a path of least resistance? By giving it attention. Because when you give it attention, you offer a vibration, and law of attraction brings more vibrations like it until a momentum begins to happen that carves out a path of least resistance between you and it. And as you carve out paths of least resistance between you and whatever your subject of attention is, then you go to it and it comes to you. You rendezvous. You become one. You become co-creative partners, wanted or unwanted, because you've carved out the path of least resistance. Esther has a beautiful stream and pond in Texas at the center, at the Abraham Hicks Publication Center. Such a pretty thing. And the stream, when it was first put in, was so clear. The fish were so beautiful, but over the years, it became increasingly cloudy until Esther realized she couldn't see the fish. So experts came out to evaluate it, and they decided it just needed a bigger pump. The pond works by drawing water out of the bottom of the pond. The stream goes down into a pond. The pond has the pipes in the bottom. The pipes draw it into the filter. The filter filters it and aerates it and puts it back into the pond. But it wasn't clear. So finally it was determined that the pipes bringing the water back into the pond were all clogged up from neglect. So they just laid some new pipes. It was easier than digging the old ones out. It was easier than trying to clean the old ones out. They tried all of that. They just laid new pipes from the pump to the pond. And right away, the pond cleared up. So we want to say to you that we love you so much, but you've got some clogged pipes. Because you're asking for things. Step one, you're asking. And non-physical, the universe, law of attraction, is delivering to you the results of your request. That's the filter. But if you are not in a vibrational place that matches what you're asking for, your pipes are all clogged up. So we think that it's time to lay some new pipes. But we don't think it's a good idea to try to lay the new pipes when you are so vividly aware of the clogged pipes. Because when you give your attention to your clogged pipes, you just get more clogged pipes. In other words, we want to show you how, by giving attention to what you are wanting, you will carve out a path of least resistance to what you're wanting. So we're eager to talk with you about anything that matters to you. We're going to be visiting about the momentum of your experience. We want you to begin to recognize that when you give your attention to a thought and you hold your attention upon that thought, start again. Every subject is two subjects. On one end of this stick is what you want, and on the other end of it is the absence of the very same thing. So every subject is really two subjects, wanted and absence of it. So when you give your attention to something, whether it's something wanted or the absence of something wanted, when you give your attention to it and you maintain your attention for as little as 17 seconds, another thought like it will join it. And that's that thought momentum that we want you to focus upon. Hold that thought for another 17 seconds and another thought like it joins it, and another 17 seconds, another thought. And by the time you cross the 68-second mark, we are not just making up seconds for the fun of demonstration. 17 seconds. You've got 17 seconds to decide the momentum of a thought. And if during that 17 seconds you stay with it and another thought joins it, now that thought has more power. And once you cross that 68-second mark, you've got enough momentum going that it will be likely that you will follow through with the momentum of that thought into some sort of manifestation. So we just want to call your attention to that, because when you begin to recognize how powerful your thoughts are, it makes you want to flow them with a little bit more precision. This is going to be a conversation of true fine-tuning. We don't want you to freak out about the thoughts that you're thinking. We see you cancel, trying to suck them back. Esther said to someone the other day, I have something to tell you and I only have 17 seconds to do it in. She was very fast in her conversation. But we want you to realize that you have the capacity to choose a high-flying disc. Your probability of finding it is first thing in the morning, before other things have become active that make it more difficult. So now you understand about law of attraction, don't you? And now you're understanding a bit about your disc, choosing your thought, your relationship with who you are. Yes, you have a sense of momentum. Have you ever pushed your car? It's easier to push it downhill than uphill, isn't it? Momentum. So you're understanding momentum of thought. So now you understand all of the elements to become a deliberate creator of your own experience. We're eager to talk with you about anything that matters to you. Don't worry about us. We will wedge our message in the crack. It is our expectation that together we will discover new nuggets of refinement and new methods of application. And most of all, new heartfelt, from your standpoint, reason for more deliberate focus. We know that you want to be the deliberate creator of your experience. We know that for the most part you aren't the deliberate creator of your experience, that you are doing more creating by default, by habit of thought, by old belief, by old pipes, than you really mean to. A belief is just a thought you keep thinking. It's a habit of thought. It's a thought that has enough momentum that things are actualizing around it, and that's why you believe it. We just want you to know that you can choose your beliefs, and therefore you can choose what actualizes around them. You do not have to look out into the world and accept those unwanted things as true, and because you're giving them so much airtime, then prove them out in your own experience. You also will discover that you don't need to try to talk anybody else out of their beliefs, because in that effort you talk yourself into them, because you live in a universe of attraction and there's no exclusion. So when you say, I don't want to think about that, you're thinking about that thing you don't want to think about. And if you think about that thing that you're not wanting to think about for 17 seconds, then another thing like it that you're not wanting to think about joins it. And then another, until that thing you're not wanting to think about has hold of you. It feels like it's thinking you. It isn't. You're thinking it. What do you want to talk about?